Good.
Yeah, so we're officially live on YouTube, but
Hi.
I haven't been able to tell anyone about it. Did you tell
Neither
anyone?
have I. No.
So it just means that our chat gets recorded, which is nice. Very often I would have these, I said I started these dates in 2018, and some of these conversations were so enlightening that I was like, wow, I wish we were taping this.
Right.
So this is just a really nice way to archive it. At one point, I was thinking of like taking the audio, because StreamYard gives you the audio files as well. And I was like, the podcast, right? This is enough for me. I don't need a podcast.
It's lovely. I mean, I just wanted to chat with you because it's just, I don't know. I look at all your media, and I don't know. I had such a good time that time you came when you photographed me and my Hachamama, and you just kind of want to spend more time with you.
Oh, that's so nice. Shall we? What are you wearing here? I can see there's words here. I wish.
Yeah. So this is I don't even know what it says, but
I'm like this, trying to see.
I'm trying to figure out what it says. It has a lot of flowers and butterflies, and my mother-in-law bought it for me because it's actually one of the things that I was proud that I accomplished in the Corona. But I have a wonderful brother-in-law who's in Akim. He has some special needs, and I decided during Corona to help him learn Hebrew. And he made Aliyah about 5 years ago. You know him, you know Darren. So so we started every day just getting online and talking in Hebrew and practicing and teaching him words. And we've been doing it for the past 3 months. And so they bought me this shirt to thank me, which is totally unnecessary. And so it also makes me feel good because I love the shirt, and my mother-in-law has the most incredible taste, and also just makes me feel good.
That's so beautiful. It really caught my eye. So yeah, you were saying during the time. It's so funny we say during the time of Corona, like as if it's gone. I think we mean like during the time when we were first locked down, as opposed to now when we're heading for another one. I kind of want to tell everyone in England who's relaxing the rules and they're like 3-4 weeks behind where we are. That's like, don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't go back to having weddings of 250 people. No. You're really going to regret it.
I know it's so hard because, on one hand you think, wow, people want to live and it's so beautiful that they want to go out and do things. And then you see what's happening and it's kind of, we were talking about it a lot, that, all the things that we hold sacred, the friends and the social and the family and hugging and the warmth and being close to people. And it's really hard to take it away. It's not easy. It's a real challenge.
I was going through my photos on Instagram. I have like my personal account and then I have a business account, and you can switch between them, but I find it a bit much to keep two going. That my personal account, I'm really just uploading the pictures so that I can print them off into books. I use a company called Chatbooks where you can sync your feed with the books, and when it gets to 60 pictures, it'll print a book. So it's like really low. It's really low maintenance.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I've done that thing where I forgot why I'm telling you this. I'm hoping you're going to remember.
You're telling me this because you're connecting it to Corona somehow, and what's on your business feed and what's on your personal feed. Maybe.
Thank you. So I had a lot of catching up to do because the syncing was off, and I had to contact customer service, and it took ages to get it going, and I've only just got it back now, so I'm quite behind. And the festival is really weird because I'm catching up. I'm like, it used to be that I would put a picture on my feed that was taken that day or the day, the day before. Now it's like, and you've got to write a caption, right? Because people are following my personal account. It does say I'm just posting pictures here for my chat books, that people are following it. So I'm kind of writing, remember in February, remember this in March. And I'm looking at how close together we were standing. That's the point.
Yeah.
I'm looking at pictures, old pictures. I'm like, oh my God, we were hugging and we were standing really close.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, I find like it's really funny because like I always try to say I don't judge people, And then like I'll see a picture and the first thing I'll think is like, oh, they're not social distancing. And then I'll find out that the picture was 6 months old and I'll be like, wow, I can't believe I thought that. But it's incredible how we get into a mindset of what's allowed, what's not allowed, what we can do now, what's acceptable. And it's and what's
like
safe, I guess.
People are being stuck into this box of anti-maskers if they dare to complain about how uncomfortable it is. I mean, I complain a lot. It doesn't mean I'm not going to wear it, but I find the disposable ones, the fibers of the disposable ones, irritate my nose. They drive me insane. I can't wear them.
It's really hard. It's really hard, and you know,
So
I think
I've got like these.
What are those?
Fabric
cloth
ones.
Yeah, I think I want to get some cloth ones. I think
can't wear the others.
Yeah, I'm wearing the one-time ones, but ecologically, it's really not my stream.
Yeah,
but
that's the other problem.
But on the other hand, it's just like you know, on one hand, we know it's important, and that's what I'm doing. But on the other hand, there's also a fine line between where you start judging everyone else in the world. You know, people. There are people with mental health issues that can't wear masks. There are people with special needs, and there are people that maybe are just not wearing it because they're not being careful. But we are not the ones to judge them and to save the world. We have to, you know, there has to be maybe a decision that they'll be fined or whatever it is. But it's I don't get this on social media when people start ranting, because it's not an easy thing. It's against our whole way. It's just the way we have to in order to be safe, and in order to keep the people we love safe. Because some, those who might not be at risk might feel that they're safe even though we don't know it. But there's so many people that really are in danger, and that's our goal, to help them and protect them as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, Elizabeth Kay, I didn't get you to introduce yourself, so just
I know we're going
hopefully
on. We're really having a private coffee day.
Yeah, I just got straight into it, but hopefully this will go onto my YouTube playlist for all people that want to have a good old binge of the whole coffee and conversation series. So what's your elevator pitch? Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, so my name is Elizabeth, and I am an art therapist and a garden therapist, and I help children and teens deal with their challenges. So we use gardening and we use art as tools. I'm also studying now to be a cognitive behavioral therapist, a CBT therapist, with a focus in trauma. And so in whichever way I can reach these kids, whether it's through a creative art project, whether it's through gardening, whether it's through talking, but with the knowledge that words aren't always enough. And there's a lot of connection with what we feel, with what our body is telling us. There's a very famous saying that the body always remembers, and especially in trauma, where people don't understand why someone can be panicked in a situation that looks very normal in every other way, but the body will somehow connect, whether it's the way the person is sitting, whether the way the atmosphere, whether it's a smell, and the body makes us feel a certain way. And so through this work, I try to help these kids really reconnect with themselves, with their inner selves. And I run the Hachamama Shel Elizabeth, Elizabeth's greenhouse, where I have the garden and the art studio, all mixed into one.
And where did you come from before you lived in Israel?
I came from New York. I moved here with my parents when I was 18. So, which is only a few years ago. So I came to therapy later on in life. I was originally a tour guide, and
how cool!
Yeah, I was a tour guide, and I had a license on a tour guide car, and I took tourists all over Israel.
Oh my goodness, amazing!
Yeah.
You missed that.
Well, now I'm really glad I'm not in that field.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
The truth is, I left when the kids were young, I just realized that it was just too, just not in keeping with my life. Yeah, I wanted to see my kids, and a tour guide is not just a day. It's 5 days. It's 2 weeks. It's, the group comes in and you're supposed to be there whenever, and then you might not have a group for a week. So you could never really find that balance. At least I couldn't find the balance, and I made that decision. I made the decision that when my oldest was 3 and my youngest, it was my first 2. I have four kids, and my first 2 or 3 and 1, and I just said, this is just not working for me. I'm stressed when they offer me work rather than being excited.
I know that feeling. Like, don't call me.
yeah, exactly. And you know what? They don't afterwards. When you're saying, well, is it 3 days up north? Was it 2 days? How? And then another day gets added up north, and you're feeling, oh no. But I loved the work because I love working with people, and it was fun. It was basically what I'm doing now, except now I'm doing it with therapy, and I'm doing it where I can be with the same people all the time. But there, I was working with people and taking them, on trips and being with the families, and it was hard to leave, but it was a journey. I left and I started working in a local school, and just teaching nature, creating a special program for them, Jewish tradition and nature. It was wonderful. But little by little in a school system, I just saw that there was just so much of an emotional need for the garden, for the being outdoors. And I started not even wanting to be a therapist. I started wanting to be a teacher, a better teacher. But once I started learning therapy in order to become a better teacher, all I wanted to do was be a therapist. So that's how I ended up here.
That's amazing. And the space you found is right next to a nursery. So like it couldn't be more perfect.
No, it really was. And it's interesting because you realize that, especially like now when it's so hard, to, connect with people, you have to make that effort to do it on video. And when I was looking, I just started to network, just started to call people, to speak to everyone I bumped into. I'm really looking for a space in which I could combine my garden therapy with my art therapy, because there are very few people who do both. Art therapists or people who do garden therapy. And it ended up that I had spoken to somebody at the nursery if they knew of anything. They had an uncle with a farm, and it wasn't the right thing. But I bumped into him when I went to the nursery with my daughter to buy a plant. And she, we just walked in, she and I together, and I bumped into this guy, and I said, yeah, it's not going to work out. I really need a special place that also has room for an art studio. And he's like, well, why don't you use this empty building on our nursery? It was a restaurant. It was vacated 2 years ago. This could be perfect. And I just went over there and I was like, wow, this is everything. It ticks all the boxes. Amazing. It was really
it's actually like it looks too good to be true. It's amazing.
No, it really is. And the wonderful thing is that somebody once told me, write out everything you're looking for. And like a vision board, but I even just wrote it out in words. This is what I want in my dream place. And actually, after I had rented this place and set it up, and one day I was like opening up all the files that I was working on and setting and getting everything organized, and this piece of paper fell out, and it was the list that I had made. So I said, okay, great, I'll tick off whatever is there, and they were all there. All the things that I had wanted were on that list.
Rare, so rare.
It is. I really feel very, very blessed in that respect.
And what made you pick this subject? Tell me about that.
So, I guess I've been like listening to a lot of things during the corona, and hearing just some amazing people talk about how to get through it, what to do, how self-help. And I couldn't really think of what to add. I was trying to think, well, what do I think of as special? What could I tell about? And there is, of course, the therapy that I do and the things that I do, but this sort of came to my head because I think it had a very big impact on my life. And so I said, you know what, this is the topic. And it's funny because I was wondering how it's going to be, because it's a harder topic to talk about, a traumatic life event. But it's definitely something I went through and something that has meaning for me. So I thought it would be a good topic for conversation.
Absolutely. I am happy for whatever you want to share, wherever you want to begin.
It really is the story of a typical birth that went into a life-threatening situation. So my fourth child is a gorgeous boy. He's 17. I just turned 17 last week. 2 weeks ago it is already. And everything was okay. All my scans, everything that, I went through, followed by a hospital doctor, even left before the contractions started. But it was a very, very quick birth. It ended up being a race to the hospital because just everything went very, very quickly. And he was born like within minutes after I got into the hospital, and everything was okay. And then things went wrong, which things can. That the afterbirth was didn't come out. It was attached to the uterus, and it was just all of a sudden became a life-threatening situation. I was just bleeding after the birth, and basically, thank God I was in the hospital. Thank God, because they could immediately take me. They could immediately get the top doctors on me. They could immediately give me all the blood transfusions until everything went. And they basically, within a few hours, saved my life. But it took them a couple of hours to save my life. So I went from having this incredible birth, holding my baby, even speaking to my parents, and then all of a sudden I was in a life-threatening situation. So it was very, very sudden. And I was also out. So I wasn't even aware of what happened until I woke up and they told me. And so what happened is I came home with this gorgeous baby. I came home well, they basically, sorted everything out. I wasn't, they didn't need to do anything invasive, and they basically, saved my life, and everything was good. But a few months later, it just started hitting me. I almost died. And it's a very heavy thing to carry, because we all walk around, with this feeling of like, oh, we're living our lives, we're doing things. And this was this major thing put right in front of you and saying, well, it might not have been that way. And
and from 1 minute to the next, the fact that you had the time to speak to your parents, hold the baby, and then suddenly be rushed out. It's crazy.
Right. And it's as if like everything was almost like in 2 seconds taken away from you, because you hold this beautiful new baby and then you think, wow, I wouldn't have been here to raise him. How could that be? And not only that, very few people really related to it because Elizabeth came on fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't get any sympathy for things that almost happened.
Yeah, but they're traumatic, and it just I felt like I don't even know if it hit me in the first few months. Like, it just was after a few months that I started feeling like, wow, this is so hard, And it's funny because there was some very beautiful things, in it also, like just the appreciation of life and everything. But that feeling of, what is this supposed to mean to me?
Yeah.
And I remember really not knowing who to turn to. And I actually turned to Rav Lau, because Rav Lau was our rabbi at the time. He was the rabbi of Modiin.
Oh yeah, right.
And I asked him, I asked to, speak to him privately. And he was really helpful. Like he said, Elizabeth, he said, you just have to look at it like, well, what good are you going to do? Like, that there was something that you were meant to do here on this earth. And And that's really, the way we can look at it. And it was actually a very, very beautiful story where he suggested, he said, there's somebody in your neighborhood whose wife was put in a coma from a pigua in Sbarro. And he said, he's in your neighborhood. Maybe that would be something that you could do. You could, invite him and be in touch with him. And the strange thing is he said that to me. And 2 days later, I was in the park with my daughter, and he was in the park with his little girl, and he walked over and said, "Hi, I think our kids are the same age." And I had known him by face, and we started talking, and I invited him for dinner. And
did you know it was the same person?
Yeah. I knew it was the person that Rav Lau had mentioned. I couldn't believe that it just happened to be that all of a sudden I saw him in the park 2 days later. And when we invited him over for dinner, I told my then 7-year-old, I said to him, I said to all the kids, I said, "Listen, kids, this little girl's Sarah's mother is been injured in a pigua, and she's was very hurt, and she won't be at dinner. So you should know that's why she's not here." So I just wanted to make it a little bit more them understand of it. And of course, the minute we had Kiddush, my son said, "So when is Sarah's mommy coming back?" And he was really good. He said, "Well, we don't know, and it's very hard." And the kids listened to him. And then my little girl came over to me and hugged me and said, "Mommy," just quietly when we walked to the side to wash our hands, and she said, "Mommy, I'm so happy you're here with us." And I just said, "Wow." I said, I couldn't believe that it was almost like there was like a message to me, like, you're here and you have to grab each moment. And it was interesting because like over the years, like I would like, when my youngest, when he was like in Kita Aleph and you had like the sitter party, like I would be like taking a picture like all the other parents. And then I would just say, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm here." Which is like, who says that? But I really was like, I really, really related to the fact that I am here. And it's funny because I was thinking about it because it doesn't make me like, not get annoyed when there's a sink load full of dishes or when there's too much laundry or when, or cry because the person was nasty to me at the supermarket. Like it doesn't make that difference. But every once in a while, you remember that you were given a gift of life.
Yeah, and I think that is the way to go. Like when people, like older people would see me with younger kids and say, "Oh, just enjoy every moment." That's just such rubbish. How can you I'm enjoying having a sink full of dishes? No, those are not what it means is enjoy those moments where you're taking your kids to the park. And when your son says, "Mummy, watch this," just turn around and look. That's the proper message that I got from that. It's not enjoy every moment because that's not sustainable. It's not realistic, but it's picking up on those magic times and just being grateful for them.
Exactly. And it was one of the strange things that I found is like afterwards, a few times I would like see these incredible birds, and like those birds are birds that are Israeli birds, but I just like saw them, and like it just happened so much more often after that experience. And I said to myself, what does that mean? And then I realized that everything was more in color. It just was like, there was a black moment there, and then when the screen turned on again, you were like, wow, look at this world. And and to me, that's, I constantly, like now, it's so many years later that I have to remind myself of that, because you just get back into normal life. But there's something about realizing that you were given this gift of more years to your life and being able to raise, that little baby and all the other kids that were waiting for you at home. And you just have to go for it. And And I think like now, with what I'm doing is that this is the most important thing for me, is to be able to really help people and just help them feel good about themselves so they can live their life to its fullest. And when I have a kid, telling me, a little girl, saying, well, I learned my passion when I was sitting with you, Elizabeth, in these times. And you're just like, that's what I want to hear. I want little girls and little boys to be saying, yeah, I'm me and I'm going to live my best me. And
Wow.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. But it's like you said, like I could spend a day, just not really doing any of that. Or it doesn't mean that every moment of my day is this, high up sort of, whatever it is, trying to be somebody perfect. No, but it's being able to every once in a while to stand back and say, hey, take a look. You've been a chance. You had a chance to be a spectator. Now you're back in. So you're back in the game.
Yeah, and I think like it can be really difficult. So many people that are like searching for their why and their purpose, and sometimes it can just be. I mean, for you obviously you have the therapy, but for someone that doesn't have that and let's say they don't work. I think we get very hung up on like, you meet someone, you say, what do you do?
Right.
And that always bugged me until I found what I wanted to do. I never really wanted to open a conversation with, what do you do? I really wanted to like bypass that because, very often that's not what it is. My mission in life, I was talking about it to someone today, like maybe my mission in life is like to teach people in my world more empathy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I'm a brand photographer. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It could, like, what's your one like special thing or your magic word?
Yeah. No, it's true. I remember when I left tour guiding. And tour guiding was, so incredibly, sexy. Oh, I'm a tour guide.
I was going to say, it's very sexy to say I'm a tour
It really
guide.
is, and I tell you, and there was a time I was working with like, the Ministry of Defense. And so it was really like, it was very cool. And then I went to teaching in a school and someone asked me like, what do you do? And I remember I gave them this answer explaining why I left tour guiding, why I'm teaching, why. And I remember I looked at his face afterwards. He looked like, I just asked what you do.
Yeah, what?
And it hit me, what? I don't have to explain myself. Like I have to be complete with what I'm doing. And I cannot say those 20 years of being like, I actually was 12 years in a school. But those years of me being able to have that, job that worked with the kids schooling and taking them home from school and being with them, I would never trade that. I loved it. I loved being with them. And during that time, I wouldn't say that all the time because it's not easy, and all you're dealing with is kids and dirt and laundry and everything. But it was what I wanted. That's what I want. That's where I wanted to be. And I can so relate to what you're saying about like, just feeling like, oh, I'm a teacher. I never really wanted to be in a school. But that was what I wanted to do. And I really don't believe that that what a person does necessarily is what they're giving. There's so many people that their job is just a job, but what they do in their hours when they're home for their children, for people in their community, for those that say hello to the garbage guys and make them feel good.
Exactly.
That's what I really appreciate.
Yeah, I saw that happening at school, at my son's school in the days when we used to call him the lollipop man. The guy that stands at the crossing.
Right.
I don't know what I'd call that.
Right.
He hasn't been there for a long time because I'm sure he's over 70 and he's probably staying home and staying safe. But it was winter time. It was really cold, and someone had noticed the fact that he didn't have proper scarf and hat. And they not only brought him, but it looked like they'd made it. It looked like they'd knitted him something.
Wow.
And he even said to me, "Look what I got today."
Wow.
That's just like, I mean, it's one step to like make friends with a guy and say hello to him every morning.
Right.
But it's a whole other level to think, right, that guy doesn't have warm clothes. And it takes a certain amount of bravery as well, because you don't know how that's going to be received.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And you know what? It's like I've come to learn that I sometimes have to push myself in order to do that, to make that call, to move in and say, I just wanted to call and see how you were. You think, oh, well, is it prying? Is it this? And then you realize, like, you can get over it. And if it's not going to work, then it won't work. But you tried. And I think it's the people that make that scarf and give that hat and make that special effort. That's what brings meaning to life. And
I can say, I mean, I'm thinking of so many people now. I'm thinking of one guy in particular, like he spends his life doing things like that. I have no idea what his job is. I've known him since I was a young teenager. I have no idea what his job is. That's such a perfect example. I know about all the amazing things that he does, and not because he shouts about it, but just because you find out these things very often, or you see the fruits of it. And I'm sure there's so much more that I don't know about that he does. Incredible. And I don't know what he does. He works in an office. Who knows? It's irrelevant.
No, I mean, my mother told me the other day that the Rebbitzin from her shul brought them flowers for Shabbat. And I was just amazed. Like, she just bought flowers for them and walked over. And for them, that they really, they can't go out much. They really have to be very careful now. And it just was such a wonderful thing to do. So easy, but she thought of it, and she spent the money and went over to them and brought them something. And those things are just so meaningful. And they're
so meaningful. And it's so much more meaningful when people aren't taking pictures of it and posting about it.
Yeah.
I just have a really hard time with that. And it was weird when we lived in America for 3 years. I had a hard time getting around my head this idea of shouting about it. And I understand where they're coming from. They would have these fundraising dinners, and the pressure was on because you've got to build up money for the scholarship fund.
It gets other people to do it,
but you would have like the honorees, and you would talk about how amazing they are. And she's an Eshet Chayil, and he does this, and he's on this committee and that committee. And maybe it's the British in me. And I was like, just don't talk about it.
Right.
Just don't talk about it.
But you know what? I think it gets people to also do. They see it and they say, "Oh, I should be doing that too." So it's also a way of raising the money, of getting things done. But I of course, the people that just do it quietly always amaze me. They just amaze me. They just give quietly, and I think that sometimes, like, the value of just being a listening ear, just to a friend that calls, and falling apart, and just sending a little note or a cake or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything. Just being there for people.
And I think obviously when it's genuine, it's that much more helpful. You get a peek into people's lives when you use social media. So, and so much more so with Instagram stories.
Right.
Because your phone is within, you will post things throughout the day.
Right.
I was in a bad mood on Monday. I think I posted a picture of my bed, my cushions that say, I'd rather be, one says I'd rather be sleeping, and the other one says I'm not a morning person. I'm like, yeah, I'm done, going to bed, I'm in a bad mood, So someone had posted something similar, and I just thought, I've seen that, I've seen that, and I haven't acted on it. I need to just send her a message just to say, how was your day? How are you feeling? Something, not how are you?
Yeah.
And not, if you need anything, let me know.
Right.
Do you feel like talking, or do you feel like writing to me? I'm here.
Wow.
it's so powerful because those are the words that people have used to me, as opposed to sending out a broadcast to 50 people saying, hi, everyone. Or, just checking it, and you don't have to be there for 200 people. This was the other thing. My son, my 20-year-old, was saying that, I don't know, some clever person somewhere did some study and said that we were only meant to be connected to a maximum 100 people. If you think about it, your friends, your nuclear family, your extended family, other people in your life, I don't know, the gardener, who knows, a therapist that you've got to keep up with. I'm just trying to think of examples. You can hit 100. And that what happens now in social media is we think that we need to keep up with I don't know how many people I'm connected to, who knows, but your brain starts to feel that pressure of, oh my God. And, in our community as well, it's like hundreds and hundreds of people. I felt that ridiculous, crazy overwhelm of, oh my God, I can't keep all these plates spinning. I can't keep up with everyone. Like how. And for me, it's always about going deeper. Like, how on earth am I ever going to have these deep friendships with all these people? There's not enough hours in the day.
Right.
And then there was that realization that that's not what we're meant to be doing. That's just not how it works. And, that magic of just checking in with someone who might, I got 2 beautiful messages today. I sent out a newsletter, and a couple of people wrote back and said how much they enjoyed it. That was so easy and so meaningful.
Because somebody wrote, how somebody wrote the other day, I don't know where it was on social media, about, answering an email.
I saw that. I couldn't reply because I'm in jail, but I saw that.
So the next one that I got, it's funny, it never occurred to me because I knew they send it out to their email list. It never occurred to me to write.
There's a human being that wrote that.
Yeah. And so the next time I got one, and I found it really interesting, I wrote, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. And she wrote back, thank you so much for answering. It's just like,
usually you send it off into the world. And on my program, my MailerLite dashboard, I can go into my dashboard and I can look at my campaigns, and it tells me how many bounced, how many unsubscribed, if anyone reported you as spam, how many people clicked on the link. Very nice, but did anyone like it? It doesn't tell you that.
It doesn't tell you anything. And people don't even think of, it just never, it was really funny how it never occurred to me to respond, because I just thought, oh, she must, I don't know. I don't know. And I think, it's really, I think that's what it's all about. It's grabbing those moments. That's what we do in therapy, which is, that's what I do in therapy, is that basically taking those little moments that we have and trying to make them mean something, so that when that kid leaves and has something, someone else says something similar to what I told them is true, that you are strong, or you are powerful, or you are funny. Someone else laughs at their joke. They remember what Elizabeth said. I'm funny.
Elizabeth was right. I am funny.
Yeah. Just, because you never know when you come across somebody and I've had that, and I've heard loads of stories of it with other people where they've said, years ago, somebody said this to me and it stayed with me all these years, and you realize how important it is to sometimes you're, in therapy also, you're extending your hand and holding on to somebody so that they can get over that bridge, and then they get over that bridge and you send them off, and then hopefully they'll have someone else supporting them as they grow up. And it's also that when we bump into somebody who just had a loss and we manage to say, how you doing today? It doesn't have to be, how are you? It could be, how are you today? How's your day going? Something more simple, something more, more practical. Like I could say, well, today they woke up and it wasn't so great, or because how are you? I'm fine, but how are you today? Yeah, today was actually okay. Today I felt I'm here, I'm out here, and it gives somebody a chance to maybe open up, or maybe not, depending on what they want, but they know that you really want to know how their day is going, and that might just
absolutely. It's a tiny bit less cliched. we're learning. I'm training to be a grief counselor at the moment, and we're
Oh,
learning
wow.
different ways of saying the same thing, better ways of saying,
Right.
like new ways of thinking and reframing things and rephrasing. And there's, when you're your first meeting with someone, with the counselee, one of the questions to be asking if someone that's recently suffered a bereavement is to ask them if they're sleeping. And I
Right.
think, God, that's such a good question, because that tells you so much.
Yeah.
And when you say that, it's like when you say it to a new mother, how are the nights?
Yeah.
Because you know that they're
Yeah.
probably awful. And it's
Yeah.
that nice feeling that you get of, oh, she gets it. She understands that my sleep isn't what it was. And she understands that I'm having nightmares, and it like opens
Right.
them up. So,
Wow, that is so
I'm
smart.
yeah. I'm assuming when you do a therapy with kids that it can't be structured so much. You have to kind of just go with, let them take the lead and
Yeah.
follow
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah, you do, but it's interesting because in this course that I'm doing now, which is, like I said, it's trauma, but it's also working with CBT, and that's one of the things also that they say, find out how they're sleeping, because and that's one of the things that I speak to with parents. Are they going to sleep? Because if somebody isn't sleeping, there's not that much work you can do with them. And some of the methods where we learn and I teach parents is how we're going to get these kids to sleep. Because if they're awake, they'll say then they're not sleeping, and then our mornings are awful. And if we can get their mornings to be okay, then that's a first step. And with kids, it's like I said, like you said, it's not structured. You don't know what they're going to come up with, and that's why also it's so important that every week I see them, because you really want to know what happened, because like there's today, yesterday, tomorrow. They're like, what happened last week? We don't remember. So you have to kind of just like start off with, how are you today, and try to really kind of feel them out, or get a little heads up from the parents if you know something that happened, and then through that try to see what can come up. So if it's a child that had an awful day at school, and the mother called or the father called and said, listen, I'm bringing them over now for their session, and they've had a terrible day, and they come in and you say, hey, how was it? And they're like, okay. So you can say, oh, that okay doesn't sound so good. Is that really okay? And then they can tell you, and sometimes they'll be like, okay, and it's fine, and they won't say a thing. And then you'll go out and plant tomatoes, and they'll pour out their hearts to you, because they're digging and they're letting it out, and this feels so much better than my awful day at school, and you'll be able to talk about it.
So you're like doing therapy while you're like, I just think that's the most magical idea. You're having this therapeutic conversation while you're doing that.
It is. It's amazing, because there's not that, like, it's so much less threatening. You're not just
you don't have to be sitting. Yeah.
No,
if they don't want to make eye contact, they don't have to.
They might not want to talk to you. They might want to make eye contact, and they also might not really know how they're feeling. But when they're connecting with their body, when they're doing something, when they're building something, so especially in gardening, they can start feeling like, so they can say, I just feel so much calmer. And we can connect that way, even if we might not necessarily even open up exactly what happened. But the fact that they can feel better, and then I can say to them, okay, it's really good that where you feel good, which means that maybe when you're not feeling good, you need to go out of it in nature, and smell things and do things. And the art can also, many times the child won't really tell me what's upsetting them, but it'll be expressed in their art, which is incredible, how much they can show in an art, in a work of art, and or what they can create, when they're creating something, whether it's a statue, whether it's a picture, where their problems at home, and it's a three-dimensional home that they're building to create the home that they would like to have. Or for example, a child who decides to build a fence in their garden to mark their territory. And they've spent the other half of the session discussing about their sibling that walks into their room and takes their stuff. So you actually have a three-dimensional object that we can talk about. So we can talk about offenses, and we can talk about statues, and we can talk about houses in art. And then we might not have to speak about their their fence. We can just talk about boundaries and how it's good for us to keep up our boundaries.
You talk about it in a more general way.
Yeah, in a much more general way. And it really helps. And sometimes the child themselves can do something in their garden, and we can look at it, and we'll even be able to discuss how that change really shows their personal change. And those are for, of course, the older kids, the teens, but it's incredible when they can see something. They can look at their garden and see how its beauty and recognize their own inner beauty. And that's the things that I go to bed smiling that evening.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, those are the moments we're talking about. I could do this for like hours, but I have to wrap up. I don't know if you've watched any of my other coffee dates, but I usually ask a couple of questions at the end. So I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, what is your favorite dish to order in a restaurant? Remember going to restaurants?
My favorite
Remember that?
I do remember that. What did I used to order?
Yeah, I was like, what kind of restaurant do I like to go to?
What kind of restaurant do I like to go? It's I'm so like I'll eat a million different things and I'm happy with them. But like I think like one of these really like yummy Italian pastas, with
that's what was in my head.
Yeah, really. That's, I don't know, just something like that, and a cold coffee, and
we could definitely do lunch. We have to.
Yeah. When
we're allowed, we're doing lunch. What is your secret superpower, which isn't going to be a secret anymore?
I don't think I have many superpowers, actually.
I think listening is a good superpower. People think they listen, but they don't really.
Yeah.
To be able to listen to.
I don't think it's very secret as a therapist.
If you're a good therapist, you're a good listener. That doesn't. They don't always go hand in hand.
Yeah, but I guess, you know what, I'm really interested in people. I love people. I love different types of people, and just getting to know different personalities, and learning how to, accept each person as they are. And I think like I'm very lucky now, like in my work, because you get parents from all different walks of life, and you get a chance to really see things from a different views and different ways of life, and I find it so interesting. So I guess that's connected to listening, but I guess it's that curious side of me that just really wants to meet people and learn from them, and hear what they have to say. And I guess that's why, when you were saying, why did you choose this? And because in the beginning, I'm like, well, what will I have to say that nobody else in the world can say better than me? And that's why
here you are.
Well, that's why we're very, very personal, because I think we each have our own story. And I think when we tell our stories, then we can teach somebody something that maybe they hadn't looked at it from that point of view.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that very personal story. We're going to wrap up with where to find you.
Okay, so my therapy center is in Shilat near Modiin. It's called the Hachamama Shel Elizabeth, and you can find me on my website, elizabethk.co.il, or on my business page, Elizabeth K in English, Hachamama Shel Elizabeth in Hebrew. So you have to type the English and then the Hebrew. Yeah, it's a little complicated. I I might have to change that name at one point, but that's what it is. Elizabeth K. Hachamama Shel Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really look forward to our Italian pasta date very, very
Yes,
soon.
me too. Me too. Oh, and I'm also on Instagram, Elizabeth K886.
Okay.
It
All
was
right.
great talking to you, Sarah. And I really always love chatting to you.
Awesome. Thank you. I loved it. Gosh, we're at 50 minutes. How did that happen?
I know.
All right, my lovely.
Anyway, take care and thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.